I understand that this is something that is prevalent, especially on the front of this week's Time and Newsweek and People magazine, etc. But the fact is that it's Tuesday, March the 9th. If this particular confrontation ends, let's say in the next week or two, and this special that you have planned takes place in August, what relevance is it going to have?
Well, I think that this particular episode in this ongoing battle may perchance subside in terms of the specific standoff, the Federal Bureau of Investigation versus Mr. Koresh and the Branch Davidian people. But there's going to be an resonating and continuing story, not only in terms of this particular set of trials, not only in terms of the families that will be scarred and suffering for months to come, but there are all sorts of cults that are out there right now who are slowly maturing to the crisis that we see today. I don't think it's a story that's going to go away as long as there is this appetite for theological or Godhead leadership, as long as there are young people that are impressionable, as long as there are families who are seeking moral leadership, and so long as there are those who will arguably exploit and destroy people through those kind of institutions. It's a story that's not going to go away. This is today's version of Jim Jones. This is today's version of a countless number of cult catastrophes which have paraded across the afternoon news over the course of the last many years.
And tell me about the third special.
The third special that we're talking about is a very exciting concept. We're interested in bringing together in one location, which is very much kindred to two almost completely divided generations. We're going to do a special which focuses on music, on rock and roll, on the music and the culture of rock and roll as it was in the 60s and as it is in the 90s. We're going to look at the kind of ideals, the kind of music, the kind of political agenda, the kind of moral code that was the foundation, the roots that made music what it was in the 60s. And then we're going to go literally to the other side of the audience and look at the same issues of politics, of culture, of moral values as they are manifest in modern music of the 90s, whether you're talking about rap, whether you're talking about heavy metal, whether you're talking about the satanic implications of heavy metal, the pornographic implications of rap. We think that that particular show on location with those two generations divided on either side of the audience will, if it even approaches a fraction of what we see, be one of the most extraordinary moments in a 2-hour special to ever come to the screen of modern American television. If you just think of the names, if you just think of some of the people who we will have there who were major forces in 60s music, in 60s politics, if you think of some of the people who are the torchbearers for the modern movement in rock and roll, whether you're talking about rap or whether you're talking about heavy metal, you have in this special, we believe, one of those rare moments that make history in television.
Why all of this effort? I take it that the purpose for these three specials is not to do the three specials and then enter the unemployment line come September. There's got to be another reason for all of this fancy footwork in the summertime.
Well, I think obviously the thing that we're doing is we're trying to provide the rather dull and sedentary life of people in the programming business with something to just sort of at least wake them up before the coffee. No, the thing that we're interested in doing here is that we have a series of specials which we believe answer some of the needs, some of the interests that we see in the American people. We think that the series, taken as a whole, will at least provide a town hall, an electorate town hall, in which divergent people and opinions can meet and at least make the beginning of some semblance of solution. I come to this particular series of programs with a very long history of involvement in the political process to improve the quality of the American life. I come to this particular series of specials with a very well-established record of everything from the civil rights movement to the whole pro-per litigation movement. And it's that kind of energy, it's that kind of commitment, it is that kind of interest that we feel will be reflected in what we're contemplating, what we're doing in this series of specials.
Well, there are going to be a lot of people that say, you know, why should this guy get a shot? Why not go out and, you know, have Montel Williams or Geraldo or somebody like that do these kind of specials? Who are you, and what are your qualifications to host this series of specials?
Well, I think the critical thing is that you can look at two sides of it. You look at the technical set of credentials, or you can look at what is either obvious to you from listening to this amount of this tape. And if the answer is not apparent to you from that particular viewing of this particular tape, then there is probably no hope short of lobotomy. Let me move to the question of the credentials. In 1983, I almost single-handedly took a constitutional battle challenging the California ID law, a law that was rather recklessly used in a discriminatory pattern against specifically those who are black, those who are brown, those who are young. I almost single-handedly battled a litigation which started from the California court systems and moved all the way up to the United States Supreme Court, representing myself primarily. The enormous amount of response that that particular case generated obliged me to form an organization called Pro-Per Incorporated. And it has been over the course of the last 10 years as the executive director of Pro-Per Incorporated that I have waged the kind of battle that you are seeing the results manifest in these series of, although very topical, very dramatic, but at the same time very substantive, very David and Goliath, the little man doing something for himself, sort of stories and news events.
Ed, I also I understand that there is a proposed news career on the horizon for you.
I'm not sure if it's proposed or at this particular juncture it's a threat. What we're interested at this particular juncture, what we're looking at and we are right now very excited about, we have a absolutely captivating news segment, which we're presently doing. It is, with all due humility, called the Lawson poll. And what the Lawson poll does is it basically makes interactive television, it makes action news more action, more interactive. It has basically three components. What we start out with is a simple poll, a question. Everybody and his mother who is sitting and looking at your evening newscast has heard of the Harris poll, has heard of the Gallup poll, has heard Nielsen. But nobody's ever asked them any of these questions. They've never been polled by any of these people. What we do is we take a particular question that is burning in the headlines, and we give your viewers an 800 number where they can call and they can express their yes or no, or they can leave a small editorial comment. And we tell them what that question is each day. At the beginning of the day, we set this out in a number of comments that come along perhaps with your station break telling them what the question is and what the phone number is. We start at the beginning of the day with that or whenever the major story in the day breaks. And as the day goes along, we accumulate the results of this. That poll actually continues through the evening news, and in the course of the evening news, we will actually pick up the phone and on the air interview a couple of those people. Now, there are two other parts to the Lawson poll. In addition to that, we do a man-on-the-street series of interviews all over the area, going from one end of town to the other. So everyone has a sense that everyone has their Andy Warhol 50 seconds. We had to cut it down from 15 minutes because we don't have the time. Our man on the street, or if you will, person on the street, gives us a collage. It gives us a landscape, a tapestry of all of the viewing public, and it gives them an interactive sense that, hey, let me call Margot, let me call Bill, let me call Mr. Henderson to tell him I'm going to be on the news this evening. We then add to those two elements, the telephone poll, the man or person on the street interview, a third element, which is, again, an op-ed piece at the end where yours truly gives his opinion of the major story that has been covered in our poll.